Hey, if you want to make a control panel just like this one, keep watching. Hey all, and welcome to another build guide. My name is Luke, and in this guide I'll step you through the wiring for the switches and LEDs on this control panel, so you too can make a control panel like this for your own layout. This is not a guide on the control panel construction itself, however I will give you a rundown on how I constructed it, so you will have an idea of how you can put something similar together. To get started, you'll want to pick up some double pole, double throw switches. Any type will do, however consider that the smaller the switch, the more difficult it will be to solder wire onto it. And again, as always, you'll want some blue tack. I never leave home without it. Remember to use flux to help the solder make a clean bond to the wires and switches. We're going to need 3 wires. The blue one is for the LED light, the long red one is for the power in, and the short red one is to cross the polarity once the switch is thrown. We twist these together and tin the wire on both ends. Now connect the 3 wires to the upper left side of the switch, then flip the switch around and connect the smallest red wire to the opposite corner. Now for the black wire, we only need 2, a long black one which connects the power in and a short black one to cross the polarity. Just like the red wires but opposite, connect them to the upper right side, then cross the small black wire to the opposite corner. Your switch should now look like this. Next we want 2 black wires, one long about 12 centimeters and one shorter about 8 centimeters. Twist these together, then tin both ends and connect it to the terminal just below the 2 red and 1 blue wire cluster. For the last remaining terminal, connect 2 red wires exactly the same as the 2 black ones we just did. And that's all the wires connected to the switch. To connect the switch to the various parts which make up the circuit, I use these small plugs. There's a male and a female plug. You could use any type of connector, basically whatever your electronics store has should work fine. I connect them to the power in, which is directly from the power pack, and to the power out, which goes to the switch machine. The LEDs I'm using are 3mm bright diffused orange, 1.9 to 2.3 volts and 20 milliamps. The long leg is positive and the short leg is negative. You want to place them so that the 2 long legs get soldered together and the short legs are on the outside. I trim the excess off and tin it. Be careful not to hold the soldering iron on the LED wire for too long, as heat can damage the LED. Solder the resistor to the 2 joined wires. I'm using a 6200 ohm resistor. I'll demonstrate shortly what happens if you don't use a resistor at all, and if you use a resistor with low resistance. I secure the switch and the wires I don't need using blue tack. The blue wire needs to be connected to the resistor. This is the positive in. Next, the red wire connects to one of the 2 remaining wires from the LED. This is the negative out. It doesn't matter which side. And finally, the black wire connects to the last remaining LED wire. And that's everything. Now we just need to connect the components and give it a test. The 2 wires coming from the middle 2 terminals of the switch go to the switch machine, and the 2 wires coming from the top 2 terminals of the switch connect to the power source. The power source I'm using is a 12 volt 1.5 amp mobile phone charger. I attached plugs to make it easier to connect and disconnect and marked the positive and negative sides using a multimeter. And voila, we have light. and with a quick flick of the switch we can see it works just how we wanted it to. Here is what happens when you don't use a resistor. And here I'm using a 2200 ohm resistor on the right compared to the 6200 ohm resistor on the left. It doesn't look like much, but the one on the right is much brighter, bright enough to make it difficult to see the control panel if you're looking straight at it. As for the actual control panel, I used clear plastic for the cover. It's actually a clear clipboard that I got for $1. I cut it to size and placed it over my track template that I made using Microsoft Paint. And I used that as a guide and drilled holes big enough to fit the head of the LED through, but not so big as the base of the LED could get all the way through. Then with a fresh track template, I placed it over the plastic and used a spare LED to punch holes through the paper in the correct spots. I screwed it all together on the plywood, which makes the body of the control panel. I had already pre-drilled holes in the correct spots where the LEDs came through and poke into the plastic cover. For the switches, I used the jigsaw to cut holes where they sit, and I reinforced the back so the switches would have something substantial to screw into. Now back to our newly made switch. As you can see, we want to insert it into position 1 with the main power in terminals towards the top. I screw it into place so it won't move and then flip it over. I bend the LED wire so it looks neat and orderly once it's all in place, and push it into position and you're done. I connect all the switches on the panel in parallel, so if one plays up, it won't affect the rest, and all the switches receive the same amount of voltage. They're simply soldered together, and I use shrink tube to prevent the wires touching and creating a short. There you have it, quite a long guide on wiring and control panels, but I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to comment if you have any feedback or questions, and until next time, cheers.